Olga from Olga's Flavor Factory. Today we're back in my kitchen because I have another weekly menu plan and meal prep to share with you. And we're gonna get really organized today. I feel organized because I made a list, and that always helps. So I made a list of all of the meals that I'm gonna be making, all of the things that I can prep ahead of time, so that way I feel more focused when I'm gonna start working. And I already cooked a giant batch of oatmeal for my boys for their breakfast for the week. And then I also prepped the fresh herbs. And I already did both of these things in a previous video, so if you want to see how I did that, you can go and watch. I have a really delicious menu plan, or at least I think so, with lots of variety, so let's get started. I'm going to start with the broccoli and the cauliflower, and I'm going to cut them into florets. When I cut broccoli and cauliflower into florets, I like to keep them as whole as possible so they look prettier. So I just turn it upside down and then I start cutting like this. With a small paring knife, I find that it's easiest. And then when they're bigger like this, I'll just cut them into small sections. And then same with the cauliflower. I cut off like this, and then I can cut it into smaller pieces because there's like a natural way that they separate. I try to cut them into a similar size so that way they cook about the same time. I'm going to have two different recipes that I'm going to use broccoli in, and one recipe where I'm going to use cauliflower. And cauliflower will stay good for more than a week if you prep it in advance, so I can always like roast some for an easy lunch for myself, or make it into a salad. So I'm gonna prep the whole thing. Once I get the florets off of the stalks, I actually use the stalks too. The stalk is just as good, you just have to remove this woody part. And you don't really have to bother peeling the top, just the bottom portion. So I'm gonna do that with both of them, and also with the cauliflower stalk as well, and I'm gonna cut it up and add it to the food, add it to the meals that I'm making. To be more efficient, it really helps to write down not only your menu plan, but also your prep plan. So that way you know what you need to do with all the carrots, and you can do them all at once. So if you need to shred them for several different recipes, and then you need to chop them or julienne them for another recipe, you can do it all at once and get all the carrots done at the same time. Same thing with the shallots and onions. Like maybe you need to chop part of them for some of the meals and then slice them for other meals. So that's what I like to do, so that way I can just glance really quickly at my list and I know exactly what I'm doing. So for the stir fry, I want the carrots to be a little bit bigger than this. So I'm gonna julienne them. And a really nice trick if you're gonna be chopping things is to make an even edge. So cut off a piece, and then it's gonna be stable when you're gonna cut the rest of the carrot. So I'm just gonna cut it into thin planks. And then I can line them up and slice them into a julienne. And this is gonna be in a stir fry. And then they're relatively the same size, except obviously those little odd ends, the end pieces, but I don't mind, you know, I'll cut them up too. So I'm prepping these mushrooms, and here's another advantage of doing your meal prep at the same time. So I'm doing the mushrooms for two different recipes. There's two different packages of mushrooms, and we picked out all the pretty mushrooms that are gonna stay whole and separated them, and we kept all the like uglier ones that are great but they're not as pretty, and we're gonna slice them up because nobody's gonna care if they're ugly when they're gonna taste good and be chopped up anyway. As I'm prepping all of these ingredients here, I'm also taking the ends of the celery, onion peels, the ends of onions, carrot peels, and I add it to a bag or some kind of a container, and I keep it in my freezer, and then the next time I'm making broth, I add it to the pot, and it adds flavor, and I'm using up more of my very valuable ingredients. So, you know, a frugal tip for you. So once again, when I'm cutting something that is round, I want it to have a straight edge. So I'm just gonna cut off the end of the zucchini, and that way when I'm cutting the rest of the zucchini, it's not rolling around and I'm less likely to cut myself. So that way I have a nice even bottom for the zucchini, and then I'm once again cutting it into planks. And then I'm gonna cut it into strips. Nice even pieces. Yay! I feel like a rock star right now. I'm so excited to have all of this done, and the rest of the week my cooking is gonna be so much easier because I can just throw things in, it's gonna come together in no time, and I'm gonna have so much less dishes to wash. So I'm gonna go over what I did. Obviously everything is gonna be much more detail on the blog, so you can see the breakdown of everything that I did. So if you wanna follow along, it'll be much more organized and you can see exactly what to do. So one of the meals that I'm gonna be making is steelhead trout. It's one of my favorite recipes. It's actually the most popular recipe of all on my blog. And I don't have much prep work to do for that because I just have to chop up a shallot, which I did, and the rest is just fresh herbs, which I washed, or they're gonna be easier to chop, and then the rest of it is pretty much no prep work, and I'm gonna make mashed potatoes or rice to go on the side of that. Along with the steelhead trout, I'm also gonna serve a side dish of zucchini, carrots, and shallot, and a couple other things, but I prepped those, and that's gonna be ready to go as well. I'm not listing any of these meals in any particular order, I'm just explaining what I prepped for which meal. One of the dishes that I'm going to be making is a chicken alfredo with pasta dish. So I'll make the pasta and the sauce on the day that I'm serving the meal, but I have the broccoli and the bell pepper. It's ready to go, and that's going to be for that. The other part of the broccoli that's here is going to go for the stir fry. And for the stir fry, I also have carrots, green beans, cauliflower, more peppers, some of the zucchini, the sliced onion, this one, sliced onion, and like I said, I have all of it prepped and they're all stored together, but I'm gonna take out the portion that I need for each meal. When I'm gonna be making the chicken Alfredo dish, I'm gonna saute some chicken breast and I'm gonna make an extra portion so I have enough left over for the chicken burritos. And then when I'm making the stir fry, I'm gonna make extra rice so I have enough left over for the chicken burritos. And when I do the chicken burritos, it's gonna be so easy because I already have more than half of the meal cooked and the rest of the ingredients prepped. So for the chicken burritos, I'm gonna have the chicken, the rice already cooked, and then I'm going to saute these mushrooms along with some of the celery and some of those chopped onions. Lastly, I'm also going to be making a potato, cod, and vegetable soup. It's a new recipe that I'm gonna be posting on my blog. And I have potatoes peeled and chopped and covered with water so they don't turn brown. And then I'm also gonna be adding carrots, onion, celery, jalapeno, and more of those bell peppers that I chopped up fine that are gonna go into the soup, and cod. The cod is gonna be frozen, it's in my freezer already. The protein that I'm gonna be using for all of these meals, I already have in my freezer. The chicken, the beef, the fish for the soup, I already have all of that. The steelhead trout, I like to buy it the day of that I'm making it, so I still need to buy that. Otherwise, everything is ready to go. So part of the mushrooms I left whole because we're gonna be putting them on the grill along with some zucchini. And the zucchini, I have some more zucchini in the refrigerator that I washed, but I didn't cut it yet because I'm gonna just cut it in half and put it on the grill in halves. So that's no work at all. And I'm gonna marinate the mushrooms about half an hour before we put them on the grill. Or I should say my husband's gonna put them on the grill. I just do the marinating part. And you shouldn't marinate or like season mushrooms, fresh mushrooms, because they get really soggy and fall apart if you do it too far in advance. So that's that. Whenever you can, take them out of the store container and put them in a paper bag if you have it. I actually ran out of paper bags, so I'm storing them in here. For the sliced mushrooms, I'm also going to be storing them in this container, and I'm going to put a small piece of paper towel on top so it soaks up extra moisture, and that way the mushrooms stay fresh longer and they're not going to get slimy. I'd also like to add that whenever you prep broccoli or cauliflower or onions in advance, make sure to cover them really well, much more than you think you need to, because they will smell up your entire fridge and you're gonna think, what in the world is in there? So what I advise is to put like 3 layers of plastic wrap on top of the bowl and then cover it with a lid. And then to have these jars for onions, because they seal well and they're airtight. So just keep in mind to cover up the ingredients that have a stronger odor so that your fridge smells nice and fresh. Having fruit washed and ready to go is really nice to have for those moments when you want something sweet and you can reach for something healthy like a melon instead of going into your pantry looking for chocolate and cookies instead. And if it's cut up, we'll eat this in a few days instead of it's gonna stand there for a week, and every time I open it, I'm like, oh, we should eat that melon. It would taste good right now, but I just don't feel like cutting it. Anyway, I'm gonna cut it right now, and the tip to making sure it stays fresh longer is to drain any liquid that accumulates at the bottom of the bowl every single day. So every morning when I look in, I'll just drain all the liquid and it stays nice and crisp and fresh and not wilted and soggy. I'm gonna go put all of this away, and I hope this video inspired you to get into your own kitchen and do some meal prep of your own. All of the recipes, the weekly meal plan, and the weekly prep is gonna be on my blog, so head on over to olgasflavorfactory.com.